Hey authors, welcome back to Writers Workshop. So, writers, you've learned that when you go to write your information books, you are now the teacher. You are the teacher for your readers. And one way to get better at writing books on information is to remember that as the author, you're acting like the teacher, so you have to do things that teachers do. For example, we learned in the last session that teachers have to plan. And I know that you, friends, are planning your books by telling it across your fingers, sketching across the pages, and writing your words down. So, friends, today I want to teach you that teachers do more than plan. They also think about their students. Teachers think, who am I teaching? And then they try to teach in ways that help those students learn. For example, if I were to go in and help out and teach a preschool classroom right now, that's going to look very different than if I go visit fifth grade, right? Those lessons are going to be different. If I walked into fifth grade and said, all right, friends, let's use our Play-Doh, and this is the letter A. Do you think fifth graders would be too impressed with that? No, you would probably not even be impressed with that, right? Because that would mean that I wasn't thinking about who my students are. So, as writers of information books, you are doing the exact same thing for your students, for your readers. You're going to ask yourself, who am I teaching? Because that's going to change the way you are writing. And to reach your readers and to help them learn, you are going to imagine what questions they might have and try to answer them in your information book. So, some of you may have already finished a book and you're ready to write your next information book. And if that's you, I want you to think about a topic that you can write about. It can be a place, a sport, an animal, anything that you are an expert about, okay? And if you're still working on your book, I want you to think about that topic that you've chosen to write about. And so you friends know I'm still working on my book about yoga. And so even though I've already started writing my book, I still am going to think about my students who I'm teaching and think of questions that they might have. So friends, this strategy I'm teaching you today is a strategy that you can do before you plan, but it's also something you should do while you're writing, okay? So I want you to watch what I do and how I think about my readers and the questions they'll ask, because then you can do this same strategy too. So I've got to ask myself, who will my readers be? Who am I teaching? Am I teaching people who are already in my yoga class every single week? Or am I teaching people who have never done yoga before? Maybe are interested to hear more of what it's about. I think I'm going to write my book to someone, and it's for someone who has never done yoga before. This is a brand new topic for them. So since I'm writing for someone who has never done yoga, I'm imagining that my reader will pick up my book because they hope the book will teach them about yoga and they can walk into a yoga class confident. So I'm imagining someone who's never done yoga before, and I'm going to imagine someone that I know who's never done yoga before and what they might ask. And that's another strategy, friends. You might think of somebody that you know, and you might imagine that what questions they might have because you know this person doesn't know a lot about your topic. So I know that my dad has never done yoga. So I will imagine him and what questions he might ask. So remember, I'm putting on my imagination cap and I'm imagining what questions my dad might have about yoga because he's never done yoga. I hear you're writing a book for me about yoga. I hope your book answers my questions. I want to know, do people have to wear a tutu and tights to do yoga? Do I have to go to a special place to do yoga? Is it for a special day like my birthday or just for any day? Can I do yoga any day? Take off my imaginary hat. So, wow, y'all, my dad had so many questions about yoga, and my book better answer some of his questions because I don't want my dad showing up to yoga in a tutu. I've got to answer some of his questions. So let me think about his questions and write. Well, I noticed he was asking, where does he even go? Where would someone go to do yoga? So I have a page about how it's at a studio, but maybe I can describe in more detail what the studio is, because obviously he doesn't know what that is. So I had people do yoga in a studio, but I'm going to add on to that. And I've added, a studio is a special room with a lot of space and mirrors. It usually has a nice smell. So friends, did you see how imagining someone who doesn't know a lot about my topic helped me think of questions they might have. And even though I already talked about and I already wrote in my book that it happens in a studio, my dad's questions reminded me that there's more details that I can add to someone who doesn't know a lot about this topic. So friends, I want to show you this new anchor chart, and this new part on the anchor chart. How can I teach my readers? And one way is to think about questions that my readers might have. And we're thinking of those question words. Who, where, how, when, why? Those questions that they might have. So whether you are working on your book or you're ready to start a new one, I know you will read your writing like you are a stranger, and you will answer questions that you might think they have about your topic. So you're going to put on your imaginary cap and you're going to imagine you are someone, and maybe it's someone you know, who doesn't know a lot about your topic, and you're going to act out and think of questions that they might have. And I want you to use those questions to make sure your book will teach your readers what they want to know. And friends, if you've already started your stories, I know that sometimes when we think of things we need to add to our stories, like an answer to a question, we need to use arrows or extra paper. So it is okay, friends, for you to draw a line and an arrow to add an extra sentence. Maybe you have some space over in the corner of the page, you're going to add it and draw an arrow to show where it goes. You also might see that you need to rearrange the order of some things. That is a great time for you to use an arrow to move it. You also can use an extra flap of paper like we talked about in our last unit, where you can tape it to the page and add some extra sentences. And friends, if you're doing this virtually, you know that you can actually move the mouse and you can click and you can add your sentence in right there. So writers, there are always ways that you can be moving around your writing and adding more details to add to your stories. So friends, I hope today that as you're reading your own writing, you are thinking about questions that a stranger might have, and it's helping you think of what answers you need to give them and what you need to teach them. All right, friends, it is your turn. Writers, go write.